Hello, Grace Bible Church family. It's time for another Elder Blip this week, and I apologize first of all for missing the last time I was in there. I'm sure literally tens of people were thoroughly disappointed in that. But anyway, this week, this is inauguration week in the United States, and recently political events have been marked by some incredible protests, and in this country has been subject to some violent extreme protests, not only from the left but now also from the right, which is kind of a rarity. Funny to see how the government reacts to both types of violent protests on the left and the right, and might leave some of you scratching your heads just like it does me. But anyway, this is a time for us to remember history, I think, and be fully aware of things as there are changes in the air in the United States that have been coming for quite some time and seem to be accelerating now. And I wanted to tell a quick story today about one such event near the end of the Cold War. As you know, after World War II, Stalin and the communists took over in Russia, and that extended all the way into Eastern Germany, and it completely surrounded the city of Berlin, which put them behind what they called the Iron Curtain, so named by Winston Churchill. Berlin itself was divided into two, and then one day in East and West Berlin, and then one day the communists had enough of that, and they wanted to assume control of West Berlin, as it was a blight on their communist desires. So they decided to put up a wall. Well, that wall stood for some time, but that wall did come down, and communism was an incredible source of evil meted out on the people of that area. Please, I urge you, if you don't know about the evils of socialism and communism in that era, please read about it and educate yourself. Well, anyway, the Berlin Wall eventually did come down, as I said, and many pieces of wall are around the world in private hands and in public hands as a reminder of the evils of communism. As a matter of fact, I have a piece of the wall that this is not one I bought on eBay. It is one I chiseled off by myself when I visited the summer after the wall came down to Berlin. We gave a concert, choir tour, and we sang there in Berlin. I was able to pay my 5 Deutschmarks and chisel away for a while and get some pieces of the wall. I didn't get any with the major graffiti on it. I got some residual graffiti, but that's okay. Here's my piece of the wall, and it's an ever reminder. Well, when we were on tour, we also stayed with host families, and one of the families I stayed with was a pastor in Schwerin, which was an East German resorts town, and he told me the story of the wall falling. He was active in that, as many people around East Germany were. And we in the United States like to give credit to Ronald Reagan or whatever, and Mikhail Gorbachev, and we just spent the Soviets, and that caused enough pressure for the wall to come down. Star Wars military project and all kinds of things. But a little known story, or a little told story, rarely told story, is one that there was internal pressure and from Christians within East Germany, inside the Eastern Bloc countries, inside the wall, if you will. And Leipzig was not exactly sure I said that right, but was one of the major centers of resistance in that time. And I have a little story to tell. There was a church from 1980, the Church of St. Nicholas, Very small church, very few amount of worshipers. It was dangerous to worship Christian faith behind the wall in a communist country. East Germany, they were allowed a little bit more than they were directly in Russia. But anyway, they started holding Monday night prayers for peace meetings in this little church with under the pastor Christian Führer, if that sounds familiar. But anyway, Christian Führer was the pastor, and they would have these prayers. Well, these prayers became more and more popular throughout Leipzig and throughout East Germany, and they started to grow, and they grew and they grew and they grew. Well, anyway, here I'm going to read just a little bit here. On October 9th, in an atmosphere of resolute defiance among both the protesters and the authorities, 6,000 people, their number including hundreds of Stasi officials, these were the police for the communists, the East German police, turned up to the church, and another 65,000 in the surrounding streets. It was easily the largest anti-communist demonstration in the country's history. The crowd set off on a march, holding candles and linking arms, waiting for what seemed like an inevitable massacre. Organizers feared the worst, but implored their best not to give the riot police any excuse to act against them. The marchers held banners proclaiming, "We are the people," and called out their slogan, "No violence." Astonishingly and explicitly, the guns remained silent. The only thing the government weren't prepared for was candles and prayers, said Pastor Führer. Now, this went on for some time, and eventually, if you know your history, it finalized at the wall at Brandenburg Gate and the wall at East Germany and East Berlin. And eventually, through peaceful methods, people with just human strength and manpower started tearing down the wall, and the Soviet and the East German police stayed out of it, and it was basically the figurative end of the Cold War. And this was a huge thing, and this very much started with candles and prayers. One of the leading scriptures that they like to use in these times, in these prayer meetings, was the Beatitudes. And in Matthew 5, I'm going to read 13 through 16, which seems fitting for this elder blip and for this story. And Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt becomes tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer any good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven." We talked as elders, and we were thinking it might be nice to put some candles in our windows, as the volunteer fire pastor said, electronic candles in the windows of our houses, and pray for this country. And don't let our light be stifled. And I really feel strongly, and the rest of the elders do, that we need to engage in prayer for this country. I thank you so much, and I hope to see you again very soon. Goodbye.